I mean, I think they know what they're doing. And they're spreading an ideology and they're taking your child away from you because they believe that the government should be in charge, that the state is more important than the parent. Woke teachers need to go. They just need to be removed from the school systems. I can't take it anymore. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of just every aspect of our lives where the government or these insane woke people that I believe are Marxists, who are radicals, trying to radicalize our children because they are so screwed up. They are so screwed up in their own heads that they are trying to spread that virus across our entire country. You know, it used to be that we would just call crazy out. Sorry if you don't like that term, but there are people that are just nuts. And we'd be like, wow, that person's just nuts. Ignore it. Now I feel like when it comes to the thing that we need to protect the most, which is our child, I always tell my daughter, our youngest, and I said this to all my kids, you know, they would say, well, why don't you let me spend the night there? Why don't you let me do this? Why don't you let me do that? And I would say to them, imagine if you had the most amazing treasure in the world, the most precious thing that you could ever imagine. Would you just let it go without even knowing where it was going to be, or if it would be safe, or if you would be, you know, able to get it back the next day? Would you just leave it wherever you decided and just hope that maybe nothing would happen? And they would be like, well, no. And I would say to them, well, you're my most precious treasure in my life. There is nothing I wouldn't do for you. I would die for you. Why would I then put my kids, my most precious treasure in my life, in the hands of the insane? You have seen what has happened across our country. You've seen what, and I think most of us saw it. It was kind of a revelation, right? I think when COVID came into play, a lot of parents started to wake up, started saying to themselves, like, what is it that my child is learning here? What is going on here? What is this? Do you remember when Terry McAuliffe in Virginia, and this is verbatim what the former governor of Virginia said, this is what ended his entire race, this moment. It was on September 29th in 2021, where he said, I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. It was over. At that moment, it was over. Governor Glenn Youngkin came in and said, yep, you are so out of touch. But let me tell you something. That is exactly the mindset that the school boards, these public school boards, that the teachers have in place. How many times have you seen on your social media accounts parents challenging and standing up to their school boards, saying, we're not going to take this anymore. I am so sick of you putting books in my child's school that's filled with trash. Why should my first grader, and Kevin Sorbo said that on a past podcast, why should my first grader be reading pornography? Does that make any sense to you? It doesn't make any sense unless you realize that these people are trying to destroy your child's childhood. They are trying to take your children away from you. They are trying to do everything in their power to separate the parent, and especially the considered non-woke parent, the religious parent, the parent that believes in traditional values, away from their child. That's what they are trying to do. I'm looking at this in Newsweek. There was a column, it was written by a former public and charter school teacher. It said, "I was a teacher. I abandoned being woke for my students' sake. I abandoned being woke for my students' sake." This is how she opens it. And I think this is something that we should think about. "From 2005 to 2009, I was a New York City teaching fellow on a mission to close the achievement gap for students who endured what George W. Bush called the soft bigotry of low expectations because they were Black or Latino. Far from the deadbeats I expected to encounter at the Washington Heights School where I taught English, my colleagues were dedicated and passionate and hardworking. They were also unabashedly leftist. The teacher's lounge was an echo chamber of adoration for Michael Moore documentaries, diatribes about America's hunger for war, accompanied by the refrain, 'Bush lied, people died,' repeated ad nauseum, and promises to move to Canada. I suspected that this ideology seeped into the classroom. A couple of my colleagues showed their students documentaries like Why We Fight, which I believe portrays America as a prison industrial complex with no redeeming qualities. Others repeatedly said that their students couldn't pass advanced placement exams, even when they'd taken AP classes." This teacher is telling you the truth. This is what happens inside, the teacher's lounge across America at public schools. Now, I'm not saying every single public school is skewed, but I'm saying the majority of them are. There was a point when, even in the libraries, and they can't even control it, like some of the teachers don't even know what's in the library. My daughter brought home a book from elementary school. Now she's at the private school for middle school. But she brought a book home, and it was a children's book, but it was bashing America's immigration system. It was so woke. I couldn't even believe it. I didn't even know what was going on in that book. It was not only bashing America's immigration system, it made parents seem stupid. It destroyed whatever I was trying to teach my child. I wrote the book, The Amazing Club Awesome Sauce, why we need immigration, why we need to have rules and regulations. And this book was telling my daughter that we don't. That we are the problem, that America is to blame for all the world's problems, and that we should leave the border wide open and willy-nilly let everybody do whatever they want. Right? Instead of treating our military like they need to be treated, a lot of these teachers treat the military like, let me explain to you how they treat them. And this is from a teacher that said this in front of my brother. And I will not go into detail about this. My brother had joined the military, and maybe some of you have experienced this, but this person who knew us well said to my brother when he had joined, said, "The military is only for idiots and criminals," something like that. Idiots and criminals. This person was an English teacher. You can imagine what I had to say to this person. This was years and years ago. And I lost all respect for this person. My father fought in World War II. My grandfather fought in World War I. My brother was in the Army. My husband was in the Army and is an amazing hero to me. All of them are. A veteran of this nation, somebody who served and was willing to give their life for their country. That to me is the greatest that anybody could be. Somebody who's willing to put everything aside to give everything. But that's what this teacher said to my brother in front of us, in front of me. It was uncalled for and it was wrong. But that's what they think. These are Marxist leaning people. These are socialist. They've been formed that way. I remember my friend in Virginia, Jana, she was telling me the same thing was happening in her school district. And this was at the time when Terry McAuliffe was, had come out and basically said what every other Marxist and what every other teacher was saying. That you as a parent don't have a right to be involved in your child's education. That is the reason why I moved my daughter out from, and I didn't even want to chance it with middle school because I already saw what was happening in elementary school. She had gone to a private school, then she went to a public school, and now she's back in a private school again. And it's not everybody can afford a private school. My other children, public school all the way. They went to public school from the beginning until the end. And I wish I could have put them in a private school, but I couldn't then. And, by the time they were in high school, that's where they wanted to be. They wanted to be with their friends. Gratefully, all my children are conservative. All my children are awesome kids. All of our kids are awesome, all 6 of them. But I saw what was happening. And I saw what was happening even in the public school. And I don't know if this is happening to you out there, and I'll tell you a little bit about my school when I grew up. And I told you I grew up, did most of my elementary and middle school in Saudi Arabia. And I went to an American school there. And I never had, I remember there was a sex education class. It was the basic science. It was like, this is a boy, this is a girl, this is what happens, this is how you reproduce. Good luck, have fun with your family, let them teach you whatever you need to know. I was okay with that. We learned the basics. We knew what was going on. But now there are kids that are 10, 9, 8 years old that are calling themselves bisexual. They are saying that they're lesbians, they're gay, that they identify as a lion, that they identify as a cat. There are people literally driving our children to the madhouse. Suicide rates are rising, no wonder. Children feel lost. Usually it's the adults, us as adults, it is our responsibility to guide our children, to teach them the right way, to give them basic fundamentals, morals and values and principles and all that good stuff, right? That's our job. Our job is to make them feel safe and to teach them. And that means sometimes, giving them boundaries and setting boundaries. And they're okay with that. Kids want boundaries. They don't want to be doing everything. They don't want to be running outside. They don't want to be let go in the middle of the night. Say, hey, come back whenever you want. I know you're 10, but you'll survive. Our children want boundaries. Hey, folks, gold and silver allow you to protect what you've worked so hard for. And what do I say all the time? Diversify, 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 diversify. Don't forget this, because right now our world is upside down. You need to protect your assets. You need to protect your family's income. And you can do that with gold and silver. In fact, with Allegiance Gold, you can help protect your IRA or your 401k with actual physical gold and silver, or they can have it delivered securely right to your front door. You can get $5,000 now of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. That's $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-SARA, SARA, no H. Or go to protectwithsara.com. We can't control the Biden administration, folks, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's Allegiance Gold. 877-702-SARA, SARA. Or go to protectwithsara.com. And right now what we're saying is parents don't matter. You could be anything, which is already super confusing. Like, not you can be anything when you grow up if you study hard enough, but that you could be a man, a woman, a dog, a cat, a bird. It makes no sense at all to our children, at all. What we're doing to them is criminal. I saw this kid on YouTube, and I still can't get over it. But he was so confused. And I think he was on YouTube, and then there was some clips of him on TikTok and maybe Twitter, but he was made to look like a little girl, but he wasn't. He was a boy. And he was so confused. And when his, guardian asked him, or his mom, I don't know, asked him, well, Is there anything you want to tell me? What do you feel? And he said, well, I feel like I'm a boy, but I look like I'm a girl. And she had already started him on blockers. If this is not abuse, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I never heard about that woke garbage when I was in Saudi Arabia. I had fun. I played soccer. I hung out with my friends. We rode our bikes. Sure, like all kids, you sometimes had, bullies, and I had to deal with that when I first moved to Saudi Arabia. But I didn't have to deal with like this confusion that our children are going through. I was a happy kid for the most part because I knew my boundaries. My friends knew their boundaries. And sure, all children make mistakes. We all do things that we regret or things that we would have never done had we known differently. That's normal. That's normal. But I was never asked to read a book where they talked about pornographic or sexual issues. I was never taught by my teachers, and I was blessed. I had some amazing teachers. Amazing teachers. Mr. Barlag, he was amazing. He worked with NASA, and he came to Saudi Arabia to teach, 5th grade. And he was there, and we had my French teacher. I wish I could remember her name. She was so much fun. And we sang songs, and we went on, field trips, and we were kids. We were allowed to be children. Our children are not allowed to be children anymore. We are literally robbing our children. Do you ever feel that way? Do you ever feel like Hollywood and their school teachers and just random weird people in the world that are so woke are just doing everything in their power to rob your children of their childhood? I believe that is purposeful. And I believe in the school systems, it's even more purposeful. I mean, I think they know what they're doing. And they're spreading an ideology, and they're taking your child away from you because they believe that the government should be in charge, that the state is more important than the parent, that the state is more important than the church, that the state and the federal level is more important than anything else. But the only way to make that happen is by separating the child from the parent. It's what happened to my mother in Cuba. It's what happened to her in Cuba. When communism came into Cuba, the first thing the communists did, and the most important thing they did, was implement communism and strict rules in the school system. That means that your father was Fidel Castro. It was no longer your parent. The state was your parent. And if your parents ever defied the state, by God, turn them in because they're criminals. Remember that during COVID? Remember when they were trying to get people to turn in their own families? If you had too many people at your house, if you weren't wearing the mask appropriately, all that craziness, that's where it starts. It starts where they separate, they give your child a new religion, something new to believe in, a different idea than what you raised them. And once they take over, if you haven't grounded your child in with a moral compass, then you're screwed, literally, because your kid is going to be gone from you. It's going to be a huge issue. Your family will be divided. You will be broken up. Listen to this. Karl Marx said as much in the Communist Manifesto in 1848, in which he called for the abolition of the family. The family was already absent among the proletariat. Marx and his co-author Friedrich Engels wrote that among the bourgeoisie, the family was a mere money relation. Marx also said that communism would ensure that children, listen to this, would be educated by the state and not by their parents. What did Terry McAuliffe say? Let's read that again. I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. What they should teach. Think about that. Think about that. Marx said that communism would ensure that children would be educated by the state and not by the parents, because communists, and he stated this in the manifesto, and this is coming from the Heritage Foundation. I love you all there. Communists, he wrote in the manifesto, would rescue education from the influence of the ruling class. The making of the new man was the priority, and the family was an obstacle. If you don't pay attention to what is happening around you, and this is something we talk about here a lot, then you will wake up one day and find your whole world has been turned upside down. I know that for me, that's the way that I feel sometimes. I feel sometimes like, what America did I just wake up in? I mean, grateful that my family is intact, grateful that my children are with me, grateful that I have, my husband, and, that I come from such a beautiful nation, but one that I feel is slipping right through my hands. But I know you have to feel the same way, that you have to get up sometimes in the morning and just turn on the news and say, where did I wake up? Well, is this the same country? So yes, I pulled my child out of probably, and maybe there's great public school teachers where she would have gone to school. But I really feel that I need to reinforce not only our family values, but Christian values in my child. I need her to know that she is safe and that she has strength in God and in her family, and that it's going to be okay. And I don't even want to give the left or these radical Marxists or these woke crazy teachers who are willing to fly an LGBTQ ABCDEFG flag in the classroom, but not the American flag, who see America as a stain on the world instead of a beacon of light on a shining hill. I don't want to turn my most precious gift, my child, over to these monsters, to this virus. We need to know what's going on in our schools. We need to treat our children as if they are what they are, the most precious treasures in our lives. And I know life is hard, and I know it's fast, and I know that not all of us can go to a Christian school. And I know this because I've been on both sides of this coin. But we can still go to our school board meetings. We can still fight it. We can still insist that our children be given a chance to be children. We can get involved in our communities and our community centers. And we need to. And we really need to. Because if we don't, somebody else will. And they will take your child from you. There is no doubt in my mind. Just walk through the streets. Go to the big major city in whatever state you live in. And just look at what is happening to our country. I have traveled across this entire country this last year. I've gone everywhere from small towns to big cities. I could not believe what has happened to our country. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. But folks, that starts right at home. And that starts with us speaking up and speaking out and fighting for our kids. Let them know that they are worth it. Let your children know that they are the most important treasure in your life. Let them know that every day, and teach them those values that they will pass it on to their children, because you're their greatest teacher. Not that person in the classroom, not the state, not the governor, not the federal government. You are. And our founding fathers knew that. So let's take back our power. Let's take back our voice. Let's speak out. Let's speak strong. Let's fight for our kids, and let's keep them safe. Let's keep them safe. We need them. Our nation needs them, and we can no longer afford. And by the way, if you're in a public school district, your child's there, and you are having a hard time, expose them. Expose them like parents are doing now across the country with your cell phone. Videotape what these teachers are doing to your kids. Make sure that you blast it all across the internet. Let people see what is going on. And believe me, they're more afraid of that. They're bullying us. But once we start speaking out and once we start exposing them and exposing that kind of evil, they are going to run and hide, and we are going to keep them there. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. If you love today's show and want even more of the Sara Carter Show, make sure you rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on X at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. Folks, God bless you. God bless our children. God bless our great nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.